All right, call this meeting to order. City of Oak Ridge City Council meeting regular session at the Oak Ridge City Hall. It's March 4th and 7th at 2024 at 6 p.m. First order of business, pledge of allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Jackie, would you call the roll, please? Yeah, please call the roll. Yep.
Councilor Cooper,
Here.
Councilor Bjornson,
Here.
Councilor Chapman,
Here.
Councilor Brewer,
Here.
Mayor Cutchin,
Here.
Councilor Pinion,
Here.
Councilor Hallett,
Here.
All right, all present. Additions, corrections, or adjustments to the agenda. James, do you have anything?
Yes, I was just informed via email that Susan Goddard might be able to indicate some 9.2.
We'll be around for another session, I suppose.
Yes, I told her we could move it to the
Any counselors have any recommended changes to the agenda? Nothing heard. I have none. Next, we'll go into public comment. We'll alternate between online and in the room. Anyone in the room have a public comment they'd like to make? Nothing heard in the room. Anyone online have a public comment they'd like to make? Mr. Barkley, it looks like you're still connecting. I don't know if you can hear us, but usually you have a comment, but we'll hold for a little while. Anyone else online have a comment? Okay, nothing heard. We'll move on. Mayor comments, announcements, proclamations. The only thing I have is an apology for this being scheduled right to coincide with the State of the Union address. So thankfully you've chosen to come here and hopefully you can record the State of the Union. But in any case, sorry that was double scheduled. But any counselor comments or announcements?
just a point of order, Mayor. I believe this written letter from Nancy Kelly was meant to be read.
Okay, yes, we will step back to number 5. James, you want to read that? So this comment was emailed into City Hall for public comment for it to be read tonight.
Right, this is a letter from Nancy Kelly, Oak Ridge resident, to Mayor and City Council. I'm here tonight and have sent a written request suggested by our City Administrator James Clevenger. I'm requesting an appeal of the conditional use permit approved by the Planning Commission on 1/16/24 and on 2/20/24, and waiver of fees. Times that it would be open 15 days, but now told it was 10 days. Regardless, I did contact Mr. Rick Silsber on Friday, March 1st. Wasn't able to get documentation until Monday. The City Hall was closed. Also, I specifically asked costs for appealing, and so it's $300. It's clear from the packet and it was $300 for the planning permits. One shows there was date stamp 2/20/23. If you're correct, there was not initially notice of the CUP. And when I asked about it, it was told my property is more than 250 feet. It's actually 100 feet. Considering the fees, the regularities, I asked for a waiver of fees. The reason for appeal is because I don't believe the commission can commit to supplementing the music of Oak Ridge's own ordinance. 315 section 10 prohibits these activities on commercial property. Only the council may, by permit, allow individual activities of a non-commercial nature Diamond Peak Wine Bar is a for-profit business, 99.99% of the time, even though they fundraising activities. These activities are best planned for Green Waters Park and the amphitheater, which the city developed for these uses. In the C2 commercial district, the wine bar and music should be in an enclosed structure, or bar, etc. City previously ruled there wasn't to be any outdoor music, limited outdoor seating, close at 9 p.m. It would be in harmony with residential, commercial, and industrial properties that are in the district. Further, ORS 467 noise control and DEQ adopts standards to be followed by cities and counties. Essentially, business and industry should be 60 to 70 decibels. Finds my home as noise sensitive and states that business and industry should be 10 decibels less, or 50 to 60 decibels. DEQ, EPA, OSHA, CDC all agree that sound over 70 decibels is injurious to health and welfare, places responsibility on businesses and industry to maintain those levels. Lastly, OLCC states that the licensed property must control both noise, both inside and outside the premise. Outdoor venue, we can't achieve this, and it's the reason the city prohibited it in the past on several occasions. For these circumstances, I ask that you accept this as my notice to appeal and waive the fee. Thank you for your attention this matter. Sincerely, Nancy Kelly.
Thanks, James. I think the first question really we need to answer is, does the council have the authority and the desire to waive the deadline that had been set? So I'd ask the staff to do a staff report and bring that to the city council at our next meeting, if that's enough time for a decision. Does that work?
Yeah.
I know Rick graciously provided, please.
I'm sorry, but on what basis do you think that it wasn't done in the time frame?
I'm sorry.
Did you just say that you want a report from staff that?
I think that was enough time for us to prepare a staff report.
Right, but a staff report on what?
On whether the council has the authority to extend or waive the deadline that was already set by ORS and by our own ordinance.
Okay, that's what I have a question with, is the deadline part. It actually says in the ordinance that it's within 10 days. It doesn't say calendar days. And it doesn't say business days. So that would be my question is.
So if you could include that kind of information in the agenda build for next session, we can make a deliberate decision.
Thank you.
All right, one last chance at public comments, since we had to go backtrack for a minute, online or in the room. All quiet. And were there any councilor comments or announcements? Online or in the room? Nothing heard. Okay, item 8, which is 8.1 minutes from previous city council meetings on 2/15/24. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Councilor Kenyon got to it first. Motion made by Councilor Brewer, second by Councilor Kenyon. Any opposed? Speak up, please. All right, motion passes. Thank you. Next, item 9, which is appointments. First one is 9.1, Jude Anderson for the Admin Committee, ODAC, and Planning Commission applications. James?
Mayor, Mr. Jude Anderson is either glutton for punishment or a saint. I've decided yet, but he's applied for 3 committee positions. There's the Planning Commission, the ODAC, and the Administration Advisory Committee. The Planning Commission, of course, requires an extra questionnaire, which is filled out very well. Those application materials are in front of council. We was here tonight to answer any questions.
Jude, do you have any statements you'd like to make first before we go into grilling you?
I haven't prepared anything. I haven't really gone into the Q&A materials.
Yep.
But yeah, just trying to lay out my experience and all that. It's really in line with these three committees in particular. So assuming I didn't know if I'd get to the opportunities for all three, so I really just put my hand in for anywhere that I find my interest. Happy to answer any of your questions, and I'm excited to join any and all.
Okay. All right, we'll go into questions, I guess. Any counselors have questions of Mr. Anderson? Councilor Burr?
What brought you to Oak Ridge? I read your application and it's very impressive and I'm really glad you're here. Welcome. But what brought you to Oak Ridge? What made you interested?
I guess that really goes back almost exactly a year. I was interviewing for a role with Lane County, which I was fortunate enough to get, but during that interview process, I came out to visit Lane County. We got to see Cottage Grove and we drove out to Oak Ridge. We saw a lot of Eugene as well, but really just as soon as I was coming up 58, I started to just feel really connected to the landscape. I'm a big trail runner, and this is why I wanted to move to Oregon in particular, was to, have a life where I'm balancing life and work and play. And I just had really positive interactions, particularly with the leadership that I was meeting through work, and intrigued by just the combination of assets that were here, and a lot of just the exciting energy that I saw all around town, and a lot of the energy, not just from new people, but from people who are really showing up and been here a long time. And I'm not going to say anywhere is hunky dory all the time, and that there's not appropriate disagreements and conflicts that should happen in a community that has a lot going for it and a lot of challenges to overcome. But it was all those things that sort of still felt really positive, and then I just could kind of see myself here. And again, I have a lot of skills and assets to bring to bear, and I really just thought, if I'm going to live here, I know I'm going to be an active citizen.
Wonderful. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Any other counselors online have a question for Mr. Anderson? That's okay.
Yeah, I had a question. I actually, well, not really a question for you. I see on this application that you do live in Westford. And so my question was more for James. Are all three committees have seats for, because I was kind of thinking that the admin committee didn't have seats for out of area residents.
So checking, I'll start with planning commission. Yes, under ordinance 32 and 71, it allows for two. Gotcha. I believe that council approved all of the recommendations coming from the admin committee, including allowing up to 2 non-Oak Ridge residents on every committee except for charter review and budget committee, since governed by ORS.
Right.
That's my recommendation.
However, those ordinances haven't been approved yet, so the current ordinance for the admin does or does not allow for residents outside.
Don't recall that council could, of course, conditionally accept Mr. Anderson's application pending the new ordinances. Something like that, rather than making this come back to another meeting once the new resolution, written by the admin. That would be my suggestion.
Okay. Any other questions?
But the ODAC does specifically allow to.
All right, is there a motion that might be heard on Mr. Anderson?
Be reworded, huh?
Yes, for the admin committee only. Yeah.
I move to approve Jude Anderson's application for seat 1 on the planning commission for a 4-year term expiring at the end of December 2027.
I'll second that.
Made by Counselor Kenyon, seconded by Counselor Coker for the Planning Commission. Any further discussion or questions on this? Jackie, would you call for a vote, please?
Counselor Brewer,
Aye.
Counselor Bjornson,
Aye.
Counselor Hollett,
Aye.
Counselor Kenyon,
Aye.
Counselor Coker,
Aye.
Counselor Jarman,
Aye.
Mayor Catching.
All right. Any further motions on Mr. Anderson?
Just a point of
That's
order,
it. Yeah.
if you are correct, the current admin committee resolution does not allow non-citizens. So we wanted to point, I'm recommending the conditional on the resolution.
Councilor Burr?
I'll just read for the ODAC then.
Okay.
Okay. I move to approve Jude Anderson's application for seat 6 on the ODAC for the 3-year term expiring at the end of December of 2026.
I hear a second.
I'll second that.
All right, motion made by Counselor Burr, seconded by Counselor Kenyon, and that's just for ODAC. Any discussion or further questions? Jackie?
Counselor Bjornson,
Aye.
Mayor Catching,
Aye.
Counselor Hollett,
Aye.
Counselor Jarman,
Aye.
Counselor Kenyon,
Aye.
Counselor Coker,
Aye.
Counselor Brewer,
Aye.
Any further motions to be made? Well, I'll make one. I move to approve Jude Anderson's application for seat 3 on the Administration Advisory Committee, contingent upon passage of the cognizant resolution allowing out of Oak Ridge members for 3-year term expiring at the end of December 2026.
I'll second that.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion on admin committee for Jude? Jackie?
Counselor Coker,
Aye.
Mayor Catching,
Aye.
Counselor Brewer,
Aye.
Counselor Jarman,
Aye.
Counselor Hollett,
Nay.
Counselor Bjornson,
Nay.
Counselor Kenyon,
Nay.
4-3, motion passes. All right. Moving on to, is that it for the
There's one removal.
9.3? Okay. That's potential removal of committee members. James?
Linda Dunham currently serves on the budget committee, but has not responded to me. We have multiple phone calls, including leaving voicemails, email, et cetera, over the past 2.5 months. Respond to whether or not she wishes to continue serving on this committee. She resigned from her other committees. The email many months ago that didn't include this one. So I was trying to get a hold of her to find out if she wanted to still be involved in the budget committee. I not heard back at all. She was not present at the budget committee meeting. So I think that's interesting. The city that she'd be removed from it, so it doesn't affect the forum. So
Yeah, I'm sorry. Any, I guess, is there a motion to be made here?
I move, sorry, I move to approve removing Linda Dunham from the budget committee.
Okay,
second that.
any questions of James or discussion on this?
When was the last time she was at a budget meeting?
Last year.
And she pretty much made most of those, I believe. Didn't
She did.
It's within the boundary of the regulation to, even though she's only missed one meeting, to remove her.
Yes. She's had some health problems.
Right.
That would be the reason she's non-responsive.
Okay, and she can always come back and rejoin if need be. Okay. Any other discussion?
So you just said she's missed one meeting, but we haven't had any meetings this year.
We just had one this week.
Oh, the supplemental? Or the,
Yeah.
yeah.
Any other questions before we go to a vote? Jackie?
Mayor Kitchen,
Aye.
Counselor Howard,
Aye.
Counselor Shannon,
Aye.
Counselor Garrison,
Aye.
Virginia,
Aye.
Counselor Coker,
Aye.
Counselor Brewer,
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Moving on to item 10, which is an executive session. So the council will go into executive session under ORS 192.6602E to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to negotiate real property transactions. So we'll be gone for a short time. It's only one property, so I don't imagine it would be too long. And we'll be doing something with this Zoom connection to make it a executive session in private. But appreciate your patience.
Oh.
Yeah.
And
Side if you want, put your back to the
Ed
staff.
actually wants to like sit in a chair up with the council, but you can decide whether that's a good idea from your
The
perspective.
camera's right there. So maybe if you stood right in front of me. Back to,
Okay, however you want to do it.
I think that'll work better. You can just direct them. Have it. Yeah, just explain. Prospective buyer. James, how we looking? Jackie, are we still recording? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna go back into regular session at City Hall. And motions, I'll take any motions coming out of executive session.
I move to excuse me. I move to advise our city administrator to reject the offer for 48372 Commercial Street and have a conversation to explain why.
Any seconds?
I'll second that.
All right, the motion was made by Councilor Brewer and seconded by Councilor Kenyon. I don't anticipate any discussion, but is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, Jackie?
Councilor Byrd,
Aye.
Councilor Kenyon,
Aye.
Councilor Bullock,
Aye.
Councilor Drummond,
Aye.
Mayor Cutchin.
Aye.
Councilor Bjornson,
Aye.
Councilor Coker,
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Moving on to 11, which is business from the city council. And 11.1 is U of O Sustainable City Year Presentation and Funding Request. James, do you have a lead in or is Megan?
I'll lead in and then I'll
Yeah.
turn it over to Megan. Megan Makes here from University of Oregon Sustainable City Year Program. So the previous discussion we had about the program. Now it's kind of time to decide if we want to jump in. Getting the cost is $50,000, which is half price, normally $100. The federal government is matching half of that. Payment can also be split over 2 installments over the 2 fiscal years, 2025, 2026. Make it work. We've identified a number of projects that we could use for this program. We just prepared a presentation. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you for coming.
Mayor, council. I'm thinking maybe I'm headed this way. Would that work?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect, good, because then I can also say my slide and all that. Thank you for having, it's a little strange, but if you don't mind, I'll just keep turning.
We can hear just fine and
Dizzy, I'll.
can't get
sit
much
down.
closer.
I appreciate your time this evening, and I'm excited to talk about the program and a potential partnership with the city of Oak Ridge. My colleague Lindsay will be here this evening, so you're stuck with me. Next slide, please. So I want to talk about what the program actually is. So we know that the world needs research, we know we need ideas, we know we need solutions, and leveraging the role of universities for the benefit of society overall is critically important. We also know, and you all know, more so than probably 99.9% of the population, that change and everything happens at the local government level. With everything that you need to get done as staff, as elected officials, it's really hard to find space to think about best practices, new ideas, as well as, perhaps there's not the political space to be exploratory. However, universities, that's part of the reason we exist, because we want to think about new ideas and new ways of doing things. So that's where SCYP comes in. Through our year-long partnerships, SCYP helps communities solve today's problem while setting the stage and setting the groundwork for a sustainable future. while at the same time, we're helping students that are going through university be better prepared to enter the workforce. We do this through applied learning, and that's where we're doing city identified projects at the university. Next slide, please. So since 2009, since we started, we have partnered with cities from Medford to Hermiston along the Willamette Valley corridor, as well as Central Oregon and our most populated area up in Salem. For us, SCYP is providing a mechanism to get this knowledge into practice and help universities improve the quality of life for all Oregonians. And that's really our goal. This year, our academic year 2023-2024, we have our first repeat partner. We are working with our state's capital, right up our 5, City of Salem. Next slide, please. So what SCYP includes with our partnerships depends. It depends on the size of the city we're working with. It depends on what the city we're working with is interested in. So these numbers of faculty and students and courses, disciplines, all vary depending on the partnership. For us, regardless of the numbers, it's really having value for the community and allowing students to have impact and effort while they're still in school.
Sorry, we're just making the post online.
The secret presentation we're sharing. I'm gonna guess you don't want me to go back, but I'd be happy to. But you got the verbal, correct?
Yeah, are we on the right page for you right now, though?
Yep. I
Okay,
think we could go ahead and move forward to the next one. So the variety of disciplines that we have access to, that's kind of a weird way to say it, but we work across campus is the short version. So depending on the projects that a city identifies, depends on who we might match that project with. For us also, we are not interested in being closed and provincial about this program. We want to include other universities if they're interested in participating. So we've worked with Oregon State, we've worked with Portland State, as well as Eastern Oregon University. Because, for example, U of O doesn't have engineering, but Portland State has a very robust engineering program. We've done work. Next slide, please. So thinking about some ideas for Oak Ridge based on some initial conversations, and this is, again, subject to change, subject to add to, whatever ends up happening that's beneficial for Oak Ridge. But we do have some ideas of some disciplines that might be interested in participating. And those are up there: journalism, business, planning, design, geography, public administration, nonprofit management, and just a few, or all, depending on where we land. All right, next slide, please. And I just, that saying, you're unique, just like everybody else. I just wanted to share some past examples of a few projects we've done with other past partners. And perhaps some of these might resonate with Oak Ridge and some of yours. Next slide. And as I mentioned, just for context, we started our this model in 2009. So we've had 14 partnerships that have been 4-year-long partnerships, plus some special projects. So we do have a tremendous number of work that we've done in a variety of areas. But one thing that seems to be a state priority and a city priority right now is housing. So we did a special project with the city of Hood River. They wanted to develop more diverse housing types focused specifically on missing middle. And this was based on the results from the housing needs analysis and some planning that we're doing for the west side area. So student recommendations varied from proposing to allow greater diversity of housing types to be allowed in the zoning code, perhaps allowing multifamily outright, or streamlining the permitting process, reducing development review costs, or even thinking about form-based codes as opposed to traditional zoning codes. I'm just gonna take a breath here. Feel free to take a breath with me. Students also helped the city of Hood River think about and mitigate potential opposition to new housing types. Not unusual. They proposed, among other things, to have a robust public engagement process, as well as a housing task force composed of community members. Next slide, please. Another housing example. This was for the city of Troutdale. And turns out that there was a parcel of land in Troutdale that was in the city of Troutdale, owned by Multnomah County, interested in developing by the Regional Housing Authority for affordable housing, 4 acres, really close to downtown. So what ended up happening was the city, when during our year of engagement, they said, well, perhaps we could bring in students, neutral, non-threatening, to explore opportunities for affordable housing. So we had planning students and we had architecture. Planners started first, and then the architecture students took some of the base work and more planning centered work. And they did more of the architecture students did more building design and site specific design. So common themes that these students came up with had to do with mixed uses, including community services, better accessibility for pedestrians and bicyclists so that you didn't need to drive a car, or perhaps you didn't even need to purchase a car. Key recommendations that they came up with that had value for the city, and Home Forward is the name of the housing authority, ranged from creating and supporting a community feel within the development, first floor commercial that included job placement, as well as potential jobs for people to work at who lived in the development and nearby, connections between existing built infrastructure with proposed new infrastructure for cost savings, and then elements that established a sense of place, such as public art and community centers. And I'm happy to report that as of November of 2023, the land has transitioned to Home Forward, and work is beginning on 85 affordable housing units, with construction slated to start this summer. Next slide, please. Okay, now the super fun stuff. Urban renewal and public budgeting. We have a public budgeting class, and what Philippine was interested in was figuring out. They had this new urban renewal program, but they didn't really have the bandwidth to figure out what really were the best practices around it and what they should be doing with it. So students worked towards kind of helping them along. They developed some, or they researched case studies, cities with urban renewal programs that were somewhat, related to Lapine or equivalent. They also, just understanding the staff constraints, came up with short-term recommendations as well as long-term recommendations. And I'll skip the details unless we have any. I'm happy to talk in more detail about any of these projects, but I'll keep going. How about next slide? This was another Troutdale project, and the city council didn't feel like their capital improvement planning efforts were as, like, I don't know what the word is, but they wanted to have the most impact that they could, and they didn't feel like they were the way their current CIP process was developed. So they asked students to evaluate some options for how to move forward or to switch up how they were doing the capital improvement planning. And so the students researched 3 different possible prioritization systems for project selection to go into the capital improvement planning. The students recommended something that included not only the city goals, but also the county and state goals. And part of the reason they wanted to do that for their evaluation of the capital improvement planning was the possibility for grants. knowing that if they included the state and county goals, they would be aligned with potential grant opportunities. Next slide. Okay, this might be my favorite. This was our first partnership with Salem, and the city of Salem was wondering what to do, if anything, with some industrial byproducts. And so business MBA students recommended that perhaps they could use industrial waste with the city's biodigester. And so what this ended up doing, they could potentially have tipping fees for the city, and they wouldn't have to truck the waste to Portland. And the city ended up adopting this, and after they implemented it, they were able to actually have revenue of about $800,000 per year, and it became part of the region's economic development strategy. Next slide, please. Okay, this might be my favorite. So this one, and actually a lot of these, I realize I'm just skimming the surface. There's a lot of detail that I'm skipping because they're working for 11 weeks and I'm giving you a 60-second overview. But in this case, Lane Transit, this was a project for Lane Transit District. We did do a partnership with LTD as well as the regional transit agency up in Portland, TriMet. So LTD was struggling because they had seen decreased revenue, and they weren't exactly they were not exactly sure what to do about that. And so they brought in some business students. And as we started this project in January of 2020, COVID hit. So they asked the students if they could pivot and take on addressing what the impacts of COVID might have for LTD. And so the students took this on. And of course, you all know they created a financial projection model. They compared business as usual, these projections with shortfalls caused by economic impacts of COVID. And what their analysis revealed is that LTD could be looking at a $15 million shortfall in payroll and self-employment tax revenue through the end of fiscal year 2021. So it's almost getting that information in real time and allowing them to respond to address what might potentially happen in a much more a succinct or way that they can be more nimble and not suffer through the potential consequences of that. So it was really, really helpful for LTD, and the students developed a spreadsheet that they shared with LTD, and LTD was able to continue using that. So next slide, please. I'm almost done. I could talk all night about these projects, but you probably all want to know. Okay, we partnered with the city of La Pine, which was our first small city partnership. And what La Pine was looking for, they wanted to develop a new transit center. And they also wanted to know how could they reduce their energy costs ongoing. And so they brought in, we happen to have a faculty expert in passive heating. And so they brought her in to, and the students, to figure out what might be the best design and approach to passively solar heating the new transit center. And what was interesting about La Pine is it's actually a really, really great passive solar environment because you've got dry, hot summers and you've got dry, cold winters. So you need to be able to you need to be able to cool, you need to be able to heat passively. So these particular students developed a transit center that included ways. I won't go into too much detail, but they've got all sorts of fun glass tilt. You can see the glasses at 90 degrees. They've got indoor heating via an indoor fireplace, also to stimulate community gathering. They've got an area on the north side that in the summer will be more cool. And they've got movable insulation to lower the effect of solar radiation that is gained during the day that can escape during the night. when it gets cooler. Great thing about this project was the students on this team actually were retained by the city for the next academic term to help further their design. So, again, they're in school and they're getting professional experience or experience outside the academic setting that has real world implications. All right, next slide, please. We work a lot with the journalism school. Their undergraduates have a capstone where they actually will create a campaign. So these are public relations, students majoring in public relations. And in this case, Salem, as part of their climate action plan, wanted to see if they could reduce idling by cars in their city. So students did a variety of work, situational analysis, and all sorts of different, targeted audiences. It was very robust, and they actually landed on social media as a way to reach people. They landed on kids as a target audience so that kids would go back and take that information to their parents. They designed a sticker contest, all sorts of fun stuff, and infographics and some of the social media posts that you see there. And in this case, the students also created a timeline and a budget for the city. So the city basically had a plug and play strategy to move forward if they wanted to implement this campaign. And because they're severely understaffed with their communication, it was extremely helpful. Next slide. All right, we're back in Troutdale. So the city of Troutdale was creating their kind of tourism online presence. And they worked with 2 different journalism classes, and kind of similar to Salem, they did all sorts of work up front to figure out how they could best attract visitors, but also residents, because they'd like them to stay in town and do their shopping and things like that. And they were losing them to nearby, probably Portland, bigger metropolitan areas. So more of a focus on social media for this one also. And we were extremely happy. The students created a video, kind of a tourism-based video for the city of Troutdale, and it was what the city opened their Instagram account with. So it was the first thing they posted. We were pretty happy about that. Almost done. Next slide. We have a nonprofit management graduate degree at the U of O, and as part of their capstone, they go in to different cities who are interested in elevating their nonprofits, and they do a variety of work depending on the interest area of the nonprofit in the city. So it could be strategic planning, it could be focus groups, it could even be determining whether forming a nonprofit is a good idea. Next slide. So we have worked with the city of Springfield, and one thing they wanted to do was an economic development project that promoted their motto, which is pride of place, products, and people. Excuse me, pride of people, products, and place. Probably would have noticed if I had missed those. I'd rearranged them. Yeah, would anyone have known? We had journalism students, the multimedia journalism students, and through their photographs of different people and their professions, they strived to show the value of industry through the lens of value of people. All right, next slide. So we have GIS, and we know that downtown wayfinding is important for cities who want people to come to their downtowns. So in Medford, students collected data on existing wayfinding signage, including location, description, appearance, and they developed recommendations based on GIS for key locations to place the signage that would direct people to and around. Next slide. I'm going to let the Community Development Director talk about this.
Okay, so this one is, the map you're looking at right now is something that's under development that I'm working on. When finished, it will be on our website, available to the community. We are using it as a tool right now for the planning commission. And the proposal is to help us make a more robust GIS which, for those in the room, it's geospatial information science service, whichever you want to use. But basically, it boils down to, as we all know, we also have a workshop in the eighties, early nineties. We have a loss of mapping. What I'm hoping for is through this program, the caveat is we're using open source free GIS technologies. So at the end of this, we would have in front of us here, your best management practices with GIS, with using free technologies or extremely limited in cost technologies compared to other organizations who use Esri or ArcMap or ArcGIS, which is out of our range of price. This year would basically get us back to where we need to be with our infrastructure management. This could also tie into infrastructure long-range planning. There's a lot of things that could tie into here. The ask from myself is, I know these programs are out there, just finding them and finding out which work well for our situations is what I don't have time and what students I'm hoping would help with. Being both a GIS professional with the undergrad in GIS and then coming back with a master's in planning, I fully see the separation of the two. The GIS profession, they love their tools, they're good tools, but all too commonly, those tools are out of the price range for a lot of small town planners. And this year, we're hoping to bridge that gap. And it would provide immense value for students who were in a situation I was in, where they can hopefully go to a small town, small community with limited resources, and this is how they can continue being productive GIS professionals.
Last slide. Last slide. So as I conclude here, again, thank you for your time. And what we perceive as potential benefits to Oak Ridge, and I base this on our past partnerships and also some of our experiences with staff and elected officials and stakeholders, community members from the cities we worked with. We know that we're bringing in students, we're able to increase the capacity for what can get done in a city. When we worked in La Pine, they actually had a total staff of 7 FTE. And so we were able to help get them farther, faster by bringing in this capacity. We also allow for the expansion of conversations. Students can ask risky questions. They're just generally curious, which is pretty exciting from my perspective to see, because they don't know what has always been done. So they want to figure out maybe there's a different way of doing it, or, you know, how can we support the city moving forward? Students can also be innovative. They can explore and they can take risks. So they might be able to come up with ideas that otherwise might not have come up. Because there's so many of them and they're all lovely, they can reach more segments of the community. And in fact, what I've noticed is that people respond differently to them if they do students. And so sometimes they can get even deeper insights on a community, or maybe, you know, just that more data and more information because there's more of them. Students are energetic and enthusiastic, and they actually share this with staff, elected officials, and the community itself. We've actually heard from some of the staff that they really appreciated these insightful questions that were being asked of them, and it kind of reminded them why they went in the public sector to begin with, which wasn't an outcome I was expecting, but it was pretty awesome to hear that feedback. And we provide a workforce pipeline. These students will these students would definitely be out in the workforce, but they may be in the Oak Ridge workforce. All of a sudden, we've exposed them to local government, and they understand the challenges and opportunities that cities have. So we want them to understand local government. We want to embrace their future in potentially smaller cities, Oregon, things like that. So thank you.
Thanks, Beth. Thanks. Before I ask for a motion, do we have any questions on the presentation for this, either online or in the room? A couple I've got, so. Says up to 15 projects. So if we decide to winnow it down to a limited number of projects, the price stays the same, or is it on a scale of how many projects you actually do?
There's an economy of scale, the more projects.
So it's a fixed fee that you're paying that. And
If you ended up doing 15 projects, it would be a great deal.
Yeah.
Since that was potentially a pretty high number, based on our conversation,
mhm,
but if it all worked out on the city side and there was staff, availability to be a part of that, then we would definitely be up for that.
and so the federal government is providing 50,000 of this fee. Have you, in your other partners, have they gone after that, their fees from the Ford Foundation or something like that to help them with the rest of it?
We're kind of.
With Ford?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't partnered, I should say, so the Ford Family Foundation was our one partnership with a smaller city.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to be made here?
Make a motion. I move to approve $50,000 in funding to participate in the University of Oregon Sustainable City Year Program.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Bruce, seconded by Councilor Hollett. Back to discussion. Any, Councilor Kenya?
I have a couple questions of Rick in regards to the list that we were presented of potential projects. I appreciated everything that you just said, but it wasn't in my language, so
Okay.
no
problem.
no clue what you're looking for there. So are we gonna have opportunity to have more discussion as a council as to how we're gonna choose what projects or understand what projects the city wants done?
Well, there's go ahead. I was gonna say, there's what the city wants, we've got 8 or 9 projects, and then there's what classes are going on and available that semester. Sometimes those gel, sometimes they don't, or there might be, 6 classes in one semester that could do 6 of our projects, but we don't have the staff time to support those 6, so we would have to pick 3. That's why maybe it's been kind enough to allow us to do this over 2 years rather than 1 year. So that we have more flexibility, availability for that. Did that answer this question?
It answered part of what I'm looking for, but I guess more specifically, like, if we accept this now, are we saying that these are the only 8 programs we want to focus on, number one? And number two, like, I'd love to be able to sign off on that, but I didn't understand a word Rick was saying, so I have no idea if that just means somebody's gonna be designing one map, or if somebody's gonna design 1,000 maps, or if it has nothing to do with maps.
Well, right, okay, so
I don't
now I
know.
understand your question. It would basically be a little bit of all the above. So as far as one map, we have a program that I can make many maps out of, depending on the top subject of what we want to show. But there's a lot of things that we're missing out on, like, Esri has a collector app, which I know that there's open source free ones out there, where basically you would open an app on your phone, go to our website. If you see graffiti, you can take a picture of it, send it in, it will map it, it will locate it. And then a staff member will be able to pick up that tag or that location, read all the comments put in it, and then reply to it. So that's just one small aspect of the things that we're talking about. Am I
So
not?
real quick on that, are you saying that we would be needing to invest in some kind of software that would make that all possible?
The caveat for this is I'm only looking at free open source software. So the software that I use is called QGIS, has those as well that are free. The one that I showed is severely reduced, so we do pay for that one, but the staff time to develop that is what's missing. And to
Okay.
find those best management practices and to find those other programs out there that are free or extremely reduced rate or something that we could afford is another place where we're missing. I see this as a not, I don't want to make it just a value of bridge because we're working with the college. So I also see this as a value to the students who may be in the same situation as I am moving forward, or even those who are entrepreneurs, or even those who are obvious cartographers. Once you leave and lose your subscription to those programs, you're left wondering what's next. And that's what I'm trying to get to for the answer is what's next for those GIS professionals who are left without the program they were trained on. And how are they gonna be effective moving forward in communities like ours? And it would basically, for better words, we would test subject guinea pig of how to make that work. I do think I've done an okay job, but I think with a little bit of help from creativity and students, I think we can do an outstanding job.
Megan, yeah, one question, obviously there's some probably better understanding the city council needs to have over the projects. Is there a deadline that we have for signing this agreement, if we're so inclined? What would that?
Today.
There it is.
Right now.
Can I answer your question by? also-
Sure, please. Yep.
Opinions? And I'd just like to share kind of how we've done it in the past, and it's kind of up to staff and council if you want to do it differently, but usually there's been like a brainstorm list of potential projects at about this time, spring, and then it gets refined through the summer, and before school starts, we start to, decide exactly what project is of interest and what class might potentially match that. So that it's, what I would venture is that the list in front of you is not necessarily a finalized list of potential projects. That there could and should be more discussion. Partially because that list, one line might be 5 projects, maybe 3 projects. So more dialogue would need to happen to figure out what's appropriate for a 10-week term or a capstone, which is plus weeks. Okay, your question was deadline. There is a fixed deadline. And because Oak Ridge has an opportunity to actually do a class spring term.
This spring.
This spring term, yeah. And we have discussed we've discussed doing this, but not paying for the class until July 1st, based on the new fiscal year. The bean counters took a little bit of discussion with them, but they are open to that. So what that means is we wouldn't be able to do the class without a signed agreement. So that's in
So it'd be the spring term.
So we have to sign the agreement basically tomorrow. Putting this on the book to eventually pay the money.
Yeah, and that said,
If we were to forego the spring commitment, when would the deadline be?
from our perspective, we have a rolling deadline, but if someone steps in front of Oak Ridge with a signed agreement, then we don't necessarily have the capacity to.
I see. So there's a competitive nature
There's a
aspect to it. Yeah.
competitive-
Councilor Kennedy, you have another
Can I
question?
ask what kind of a class is available in the spring? Is that
Before I answer, tell me why you like, what's of interest to you about the class, specific class?
just that if we have a project that would fit within it?
You do have a project that would fit. Faculty has looked at the project and has said yes.
Okay.
I don't mean to be like too vague, but I don't know.
Right.
I guess I would defer to Jason.
Is it one of the 8 listed?
It is one of the 8.
Okay.
Mystery class.
Councilor Burr, you have a question?
Yeah, so one of the things that when reading this, I'm seeing that we can divvy up the money that we're paying out between the different departments. And I know the OIP has money in it, the WAC has money in it, but the general doesn't, water really doesn't, streets really doesn't. How is the city gonna afford the extra staff time and then, and I know this is a big one, how is the city going to decide how to pay for said projects? For instance, like there's one for housing. That's great, we need housing, but how are we as a city gonna afford to build? That's a very generalized question. So again, staff time, how our skeleton crew as it is, and then money to actually fund the projects.
So speak to the skeleton crew part, I think that, yes, thank you for acknowledging that we are a skeleton crew. The return of investment of our time is gonna be great enough that it's worth the extra hours in our perspective.
Do we have it though? Can we afford to pay the extra hours and are our employees willing to put them in?
The first part of that question, let me just answer the second part of the question, because the first part is really not an hourly thing, because the staff that will be doing this is hourly. There is no extra fund going to those staff. And for staff to devote extra and above time in a project that they find near and dear to their heart and really think will help move Oak Ridge forward, we have a lot of time seeing those 50, 60-hour weeks. So as a staff member who is salary that would be putting extra time, I would be comfortable devoting time to this. At the end of the day, it's one of those things make me want to come to work. And I need to find those. So.
And you kind of owe the program considering you were a student in.
I was in the Troutdale part and the LTD part. Anyways, but yeah,
We would also like to involve some community members that have the expertise to be able to help with it. Counselor Harmon comes to mind as an engineer for some of the relevant stuff. The supplement.
James, I noticed the staff recommendation is to deny this. Any concern,
That was-
explanation there?
That was the day when I wrote it, because I was concerned about money, but I literally go back and forth every day. Now, I wish I hadn't wrote that. Excited again about it, but the money is a concern. It could be split over 2 fiscal years, right? So it's 25,000 per year. I think there is value there. I was just really hoping that it would be a donor funder. We've been drop some money on this. Hasn't been, so yeah, I just really torn about it.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion before we go to a vote?
I just want to be clear on the merits. I really, really want to do this.
I understand. Jackie?
Counselor Jarman,
Aye.
Counselor Burr,
Nay.
Counselor Coker,
Aye.
Counselor Hollett,
Aye.
Counselor Bjornson,
We lose her?
We may have lost her temporarily.
Counselor Kenyon,
Aye.
Mayor Cutchin,
Nay. So we have there, 4-2. Okay, motion passes. Megan, we look forward to working with you guys. All right, moving on to 11.2, which is alcohol permit for the Oregon 200 race. James?
I think this will be a real quick one. So the Oregon 200, which is that ultra marathon where people literally run 200 miles over a period of a few days, coming back August 23rd to 27th. They basically need our approval to get their alcohol permit again from OLCC.
All right, do I hear a motion?
Thank you.
Okay.
I move to approve the OLCC alcohol permit for the Oregon 200 race.
You hear a second?
Second.
All right, motion made by Councilor Burr, second by Councilor Coker. Any questions of staff or discussion on the alcohol permit? Yeah, it was a great event last year and no problems at all. So they're pretty tight. I don't see any online. Okay, Jackie?
Aye.
Counselor Jarman,
Aye.
Counselor Croker,
Aye.
Counselor Brewer,
Aye.
Mayor Cutchin.
Aye.
Counselor Kenyon,
Aye.
All right, motion passes. On to 11.3, that's Rain Catalyst MOU contract renewal for July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2026. James?
All right, thank you, Mayor. All right, with us tonight online is our Rain CEO, Caroline Cummings, and our very own venture catalyst, Melissa Scenario. It's that time of year where we decide we're going to renew our MOU with Rain for an additional 2 years. To stay the same at $10,000 a year. And if we could do the share screen thing again, Jackie, there's
Oh, I have control of it on my end, if that's okay.
great. Well, so I'll turn it over to you, Caroline.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much, James, and good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. Melissa and I really appreciate time on the agenda today to talk with you all about hopefully a continued partnership with the great city of Oak Ridge to continue building a sustainable entrepreneurial ecosystem and economy. So first, we just wanted to do a quick reminder of what the scope of the MOU includes, as well as what the job is that we do here at Rain. Essentially, we are activating and elevating your entrepreneurial and small business ecosystem. And we do that through monitoring the 10 elements that you see on the screen. The woman in the middle here is meant to be one of your entrepreneurs or small business owners. So we always keep the entrepreneur at the center, not our organization, not any organization. It's always the entrepreneur. And then what Melissa and other team members do is we monitor these elements. What kind of training does she need? Are there other innovators or entrepreneurs she could be working with? Is there a local market or a regional or global market? If so, let's help her get access to that. Does she need capital, which can be probably the toughest one out of all of these? Are there any policies that are hindering what she's doing that we might be able to help with? Connect her to mentors, promote when there's some sort of media, put a PR campaign together. And then are there any physical assets needed, like space, or it could be kitchen equipment, whatever it might be. So this essentially is what Melissa and others on our team do to support the entrepreneurs in the city of Oak Ridge. One of the things you get for the $10,000 a month is we have a toolkit with over 50 assets. And here's just an example of what is in the toolkit. There's things like accelerator curriculum, boot camp curriculum. There's e-clubs, entrepreneurship clubs for students at the high school. We have success stories that we'll host. There's a mentor database. There's connection to other entrepreneurs around the county or the state, or even global, because we're now global. And so there's a lot in the toolkit that we can pull from based on what the community, the entrepreneurs and small business owners in your community have. The other thing that we do, I'll back it up here for a minute, is just to remind you, as you know, we only enter communities who invite us. We are currently in a little over 30 communities, most of whom are actually funding us themselves, or they're being funded by a county or a foundation or federal government. As you know, Oak Ridge and Lowell are a part of the same MOU. So it is a 2-year total of $40,000. Half of that comes from Oak Ridge, the other half from Lowell. Also just wanted to show you what some of the other communities give, just so you can see where you size up here as far as population goes. Veneta puts in $40,000 for 2 years. Cottage Grove, $70,000 over 2 years. Cresswell just signed a 5-year MOU. It's the first time we've had a city sign on for a sustainable amount of time, which is amazing. It's $28,000 a year, totaling $140,000. Florence comes in at $74,000. over 2 years. And then some cities band together, like in Grant County, there's 3 cities in the county there that put in 44,000 over 2 years. There's 8 rural cities in Skagit County, Washington that come in over 2 years at 300K. And then there's 12 rural cities in Lynn and Benton counties. Basically, we serve all of Lynn and Benton except for the 2 metro areas, Albany and Corvallis, and that's 132,000 over 2 years. So this funding is leveraged by other funders. And so most of these all of these funders require the local communities to put money in unless they have a population less than 500. So Lane County, the state of Oregon through Business Oregon, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the U.S. Economic Development Administration, and the Collins Foundation. We have previously received money from the Ford Family Foundation. I know there was a discussion about them earlier. They have moved towards funding the cities themselves, not the organizations like us. So I do think there's an opportunity for you to get some funding from them as well. And then I'm going to hand it over to Melissa to talk about some of the organizations that she's been helping, some of the events she's been doing, and what's coming up next. Melissa?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Mayor, City Council members, friends. Good to see you all here. We have been supporting small businesses. I've been personally supporting small businesses for the last little bit over a year. RAIN has been in the city for 6 years now. These are some of the businesses that we directly work with and have helped in many ways. A lot of times it's just even one-on-one conversations, one-on-one questions. It's also writing letters of support for a few nonprofit organizations here to help them get more funding for what they're trying to do to serve your community. And then we also, as you know, we host workshops and we do pub talks, and we're going to have a day-long of events coming up soon. And so these are some of the things we provided: financial sponsorship for marketing and events, free mentoring, free educational workshops and meetups, free digital workshops. And then we're connecting people with other rural entrepreneurs in other counties. And so these are some of the things that entrepreneurs in the area have said that we've done for them. And these are some services that are still needed: raising capital, some financial literacy, pricing, and understanding codes and regulations, which we are actually planning on doing coming soon. And so of just the 3 entrepreneurs that we have spoken with, jobs that have been created or are going to be created just from these 3 entrepreneurs in Oak Ridge are 11 jobs, which I think is pretty phenomenal. You do have letters of support in your packets. So Michelle Slavin wrote, "It's important to small businesses like mine to have the big city resources that RAIN Catalyst brings to our rural community." And then Barbara Council Burney says that RAIN has provided financial sponsorship for marketing and events and connected her to other rural entrepreneurs in the region. So this has been beneficial for both of them. And then we also do things by supporting your community and community organizations. So we've directly supported the city of Oak Ridge with the following grants: the RISE grant and the Industrial Lands grant. I know you haven't received those grants, but we were still there alongside you, working hard to get those done for you. And then we write letters of support for any organizations that want to help your community. So we've written letters of support for the WAC Funding Committee, Oak Ridge Industrial Park, the Westford Oak Ridge Local Food Hub, and the City of Oak Ridge Technical Assistance Grant. So this is what's coming up in April and May. We're going to be doing a virtual and a hybrid offering of a program called Destination Creation. This curriculum is valued at $800 per attendee, and we're going to open up about 17 or 18 seats opening up to go to your community. And in that, businesses and the city of Oak Ridge itself can learn how to become a destination where you can bring people in from 5 different time zones, with the farthest out being over 8 hours, that people will come just to your community. And if you were at our last coffee meetup, then you are part of that discussion. And then we're also planning a Spring into New Business. We're going to be doing a day-long seminar at the golf course, and we're going to do the exciting work of how to choose your business entity and its tax implications. This has been highly asked for by your community, and we're going to make that happen. And then we're going to do a mini pre-startup accelerator. And for those of you who don't know what that is, that's like, you might have an idea for a business, but you want to validate it before you actually spend a lot of time and money. And then we'll do another digital marketing workshop because that's always asked for by your community as well. All right, so, back to Caroline on this. I'm going to have her talk about this.
Thanks, Melissa. And I also wanted to mention that destination creation course that Melissa mentioned to bring people from outside the area into Oak Ridge to spend their money, that is being funded through a Lane County grant. So I just wanted to mention that. And that's when Jude was on staff there. So I'm excited that Jude's in your community and has been approved to join your committees. That's awesome. So one of the things I mentioned on that very first slide where I showed the circle of the elements that we monitor in your community, and then we compare your community to other rural communities in Lane County and then also in the Pacific Northwest. And that is, that survey is out right now. And we will be keeping it open through May and also including other entrepreneurs in that survey. Oh, I'm hearing a little echo. Are you guys hearing me okay?
Yeah, we're gonna try to mute somebody.
Okay. I'll give it a minute. Okay, great. Thank you. And so we've done this in a couple different regions. And then once the survey data comes in, we create a video and we share that with you. And we get to talk about what parts of Oak Ridge are growing and thriving, what areas need improvement. And again, these are areas related to entrepreneurship and innovation, where the gaps are, and then make suggestions on who should fill them. For example, some of the gaps might need to be filled by the University of Oregon that you just heard from. They may need to be filled by the county. They may need to be filled by someone who lives in the community now. These are not things that are always necessarily filled by us. So this will be coming up next, and this is something that will happen on an annual basis. So you'll get to see the metric of how things are moving and where we need to make improvements. So that's the last slide that we have. I'm going to stop my share and see if there are some questions.
Any questions of Caroline and Melissa from the council? I don't see any, but thanks. It's good to talk to both of you again, Melissa and Caroline, and we'll take it into the deliberation now. I appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the renewal of the MOU contract with Rain for the next 2 fiscal years.
I'll second that.
All right, any questions or discussion at all?
I just wanted to point out that like last time, there is an opt-out clause in the contract for the second year. If for some reason we're not satisfied with their services, we opt out by May 1st. For the second fiscal year, we could get out of the contract, and that was an issue that the council was concerned about last time. So I think that's still not.
Yes, and I was encouraged to hear about the upcoming seminar. The destination seminar was great, and as well as the letters of support from local citizens, very compelling. So any other questions? Councilor Holland, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a couple things. First, I want to declare a potential conflict of interest. I may potentially in the future be utilizing Rain's entrepreneur services for myself personally. There's nothing planned or in stone, but I do want to let people know that is a potential. Second, I just want to say I really appreciate Rain. I go to almost all of their coffee meets and any of the events. I worked really closely with Melissa. Oftentimes I am constantly networking with new entrepreneurs in Oak Ridge and connecting them with Melissa and the Rain services. And it's just really great for all the wealth of knowledge that they bring to our citizens that are, trying to make that step into creating their own business, but have some apprehensions and need the know-how. I cannot say enough wonderful things about Rain and their group and the things that they've done for businesses that I've seen personally firsthand. So I'm excited to keep them on board.
Thank you. Any other questions? Jackie?
Mayor Catching,
Aye.
Councilor Finn,
Aye.
Councilor Crawford,
Aye.
Councilor Holland,
Aye.
Councilor Brewer,
Aye.
Councilor Bjornson,
Aye.
Councilor Tomlin,
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thanks, Caroline and Melissa.
Yeah, thank you all, and thank you, Counselor Hallett, for those comments. We're excited to hear what this idea is and to wrap services around you. Thank you all so much for your time. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your community so much.
Take care. All right, moving on to 11.4 TRT block grant program allocation for 2024. James?
Mayor. All right, so when I was going through the application form for the TRT block grant program, which is updating to reflect council's changes to allow $1,000 match instead of 500. We also need some other tweaks. I noticed that there's probably out here in number 4, this is the funds for this program will be allocated during the budget process. It will be available on first come first served basis until that money is gone. I didn't realize that, and we forgot to do that last year in the budget process. I have just been signing off on it as long as there has been TRT money, and there has been. So the question for council is, what do you want to do moving forward? Do we want to budget a certain amount of our TRT funds every fiscal year, as it says in the application form, or do you want me to just continue to approve them as long as there is TRT money in the bank? So I'm just clarification on what to do here. And last night, during 4.5 hour marathon session of the TRT committee, which they should all be applauded for, it's incredible. They recommended $6,000 for the next fiscal year. That is a recommendation.
Thanks, James. Do I hear a motion?
I move to require that a $6,000 of TRT funds be set aside for the TRT block grant program for each fiscal year beginning in fiscal year 24-25.
I'll second.
I
that.
second.
All right, motion made by Councilor Burr, seconded by Councilor Kenyon. Any discussion or questions? Councilor Hollett, do you have a question?
Yes, I'm curious, if we reach the $6,000, that's set aside for the 24-25 fiscal year, James, would you bring those at least to the council and let us know that we've met the 6,000, and come to us to at least look at that? I wouldn't want, I don't think we've had this problem, but I wouldn't want a business to be turned down, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I would bring it to council.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Okay, Jackie?
Councilor Bjornson,
Aye.
Councilor Tomlin,
Aye.
Councilor Crawford,
Aye.
Councilor Brewer,
Aye.
Mayor Catching.
Aye.
Councilor Finn,
Aye.
Councilor Holland,
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Before we move on to 11.5, I'd like to ask the council if they are willing to go no more than 30 minutes to finish the rest of the agenda to 9 to 8:30. Anyone have any issues with that? Please speak up.
I don't have an issue, but are you saying that if we don't get done with all of this, then we just don't finish?
Or we go for it and get another 15 minutes approved or whatever is required.
Oh, okay.
The first wager is 30 minutes and then we'll see if we have to go further. How's that?
Okay, I was just curious if you had a reason why you
No.
needed to leave it to the.
Nope. All right, hearing no complaints, we'll continue on with 11.5. That's the We Are Sharp request to rent food storage space in the WAC kitchen. James?
All right, so We Are Sharp, 501c3 organization started by Marie, aka in coordination and partnership with Oak Ridge Methodist Church. They have begun program through the mission in Eugene to give out a ton of food to folks twice a week on Tuesdays and Fridays from 4 to 6. Last week alone, they distributed over 2,000 pounds of meat, fresh vegetables, eggs, etc. To 158 families. Some families are larger than others, but that's a lot of people, and it's all free of charge, and you don't have to prove that you are in need. You just have to be able to self-identify. So they're giving out a lot of food. They're getting a lot of food. A lot of this food comes from high-end stores in Eugene. It can't be named, but look at the package, you can probably figure it out. But anyway, they are running out of space at the church. That the church will remain where they are distributing the food and cooking the hot meals, etc., because they have a restaurant license and everything there. What they need is food storage space. So they need freezers and refrigerators. They're right now scattered in, like, I don't know, whatever, 6 different places, different community people's homes. What they'd like to do is have that all in one place in the kitchen in the WAC temporarily. They pay $250 a month to be able to have all the food storage in one place. Also do some canning and stuff there. But again, the distribution services all still be at the church. This is for storage. Checked with our insurance company. They said it's fine to do that as long as either We Are Sharp or the Methodist Church is going to add the city as an additionally insured on their insurance policy. We're going to basically double protect us. We have insurance on the WAC as well, but if it's something that's due to their neighborhoods, we want to be covered on their end. So I'm proposing to allow them to do that on a temporary basis for $250 a month. More than cover the electricity charges. And we help them out in to centrally locate all of their food. And Dr. Spencer, to answer questions.
Okay, thanks, James. Do I hear a motion? Any questions that need to be answered then? If no motion?
Well, I was wondering how long that the storage would be needed for.
We were thinking of starting with approximately 6 months to see how it goes. We just have so much food coming in now that we need a place to store and do some of our processing. Like James said, everything else will be done at this.
Aren't you looking for a permanent home for We Are Sharp?
We are looking for. We're working with community right now, trying to get an office space and start there. That buildings with large kitchen space is difficult to find.
The problem with that is the program kind of exploded all of a sudden. The church had a small pantry. We Are Sharp was doing some food, and all of a sudden we got this big donor. And so twice a week we're doing distribution. So for a couple of days a week, we have food that has to be frozen or stored. And we're doing the best we can with the space that's available at the church and by having spaces all around town. It would just be so much nicer for us if when we have, 100 if we had one central place to take it, rather than have it all around and see whose freezer has room, so that we can get that safely stored for our next distribution.
Because we pick up 4 days a week, but we only distribute 2 days a week. So we have hundreds and hundreds of pounds of produce and thousands of pounds of frozen meat. And we're doing the best we can to make sure that there's 0 waste.
So the only question I have is it, you're offering similar to the food box, but obviously it sounds like it's more fresh foods than the food box offers. Is there a coordination or is there a conflict there when they move back into the WAC? And it sounds like most of your distribution is over at the church, so there probably wouldn't be.
All of our.
Yeah.
That's where everybody's food handlers licenses are.
Okay.
Restaurant license. We are only subsidizing what
Food box.
in county food boxes. From what I understand, they only give 1 package of meat when they have it. They don't use a lot of eggs and dairy, that kind of thing. We get approximately 100 pounds of cheese a week.
Right.
And about 600 eggs a week to get out.
All right, I'll ask again, is there a motion to be made here? Or do you have further questions?
I have another question is, does your We Are Sharp have insurance that you can?
We're gonna have to look into that, Kathy, and we're just speaking about that, we would have to look into that and see what the requirements are.
So because that's something we would need, right?
Yes.
It's in the motion too.
Yeah, our insurance company is concerned. They don't care if it's insured or we are sharp. One of them would have to add the city as
Is that CIS?
insured. That Rex was the.
Okay.
Who then, yes, contacted CS.
All right, is there a motion? Yeah.
Well, my last question would be, would you be willing to do like a set, like a 6-month time or something like that if we. It does say temporarily here, but temporarily could mean 6 months or it could mean 10 years.
I don't want to strap them to that because like if they're able to find a donor who's going to donate the building or whatever for their program, I don't want them to be stuck with our.
Oh,
Us.
Well, you could do a mutual termination clause in the lease.
yeah,
Yeah, I was thinking, yeah.
I wouldn't mind that. All I'm saying is that, I'm so leery about the future of the WAC, for one thing. I'm uncomfortable with like granting it and not knowing. I'm still really not knowing the future of the WAC.
Right.
So I wouldn't want you to think that you would just have the ability to stay on as long as you wanted. Maybe every 6 months you would need to talk to us again if you still needed it, that kind of thing. That's where I'm going with it.
I was thinking month to month.
Because our goal is to have one facility of our own. But finding that type of building, we just need a little more time because this came at us. Literally, we received the call on a Thursday, we did the walkthrough on Saturday, and we did our first distribution on Monday. It went that fast for us. So, having time to look for buildings or kitchens and office space and has been difficult on that.
As well as grant writing, the right. We're scrambling as fast as we can to be.
Councilor Burr.
Are the refrigerators and freezers already at the WAC kitchen, or is it something you have to bring in?
We'll be bringing them, we have one. And pretty soon. Didn't work.
We'd like to take the ones that we have scattered around and have them in one central location.
So you must bring in a bunch of fridges and freezers essentially to
We
the
have,
location.
4 freezers right now and 2 side-by-side refrigerators. Because every Tuesday and Friday, all this food goes out.
Yeah.
So it's really just temporary storage and the space to process.
And the kitchen there has room for that?
It does, we might put 1 or 2 units around the corner in the gym. There is a lot of power in the kitchen, but it would left.
All right, is there a motion here?
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
I move to approve allowing We Are Sharp to temporarily rent space in the WAC kitchen for food storage for $250 per month, pending fulfilling the insurance requirement discussed during this meeting.
I hear a second.
I'll second that.
Sorry, who was the second? Okay,
It was me, Mayor.
okay. All right, motion made by Councilor Tarman, second by Councilor Coker. Any further discussion or questions? Jackie?
Mayor Gretchen?
Aye.
I have my hand raised.
Sorry, I didn't see you. Go ahead, Councilor Holland.
I'm curious what the nonprofit name is exactly.
We are sharp.
All right, and is that what it's listed under for the state registry?
Yeah.
All right, when I looked it up, nothing came up, so I was a little curious about that.
I can give you the tax ID number, whatever you need.
All right, James, just make sure,
Okay.
close the loop on that. when
Okay.
You were off the lease. Yeah. Go ahead.
I would like to see a maximum amount of months that this is available. I think going longer than 6 months is that's not temporary anymore. So, I feel like we should have a reviewal date or an end date.
Well, I would say that if it goes to a month-to-month lease, the city council can at any time direct the city administrator to terminate the lease.
And that's my intent.
Does that work?
I see what you're saying.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Jackie, I voted A.
Councilor Bjornson,
Aye.
Councilor Holland,
Nay.
Councilor Brewer,
Nay.
Councilor Tarman,
Aye.
Councilor Coker,
Aye.
Councilor Pinion,
Aye.
All right, believe motion passes, isn't it, Jackie? Okay. All right, moving on to 11.6, that's TV Butte Old Hazeldale Quarry opposition letter and Old Dunning Road landfill issue. James.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, so at our last council meeting, council directed staff to get opinion regarding city potential liability on the old landfill at TV View. So I found the sales guy. And unfortunately, yes, it does appear the city is primarily liable when we sold property from 2011. In the agreement, we acknowledge the possibility of hazardous substances existing in the old landfill portion. And we agreed to be responsible for it. Yet, a month later, we're still whatever. So that's the short answer on that. Now, from our city attorney, he said that it would potentially be possible to bring in Lane County as a third-party defendant. Shared liability theory, if there was a lawsuit, because they did operate it as a landfill for part of the time, the city did the other part of the time. It'd be probably pretty hard to figure out who did what, who's responsible for what. That's what juries are for. Figure out a percentage. But yeah, it was not a very good deal. The city signed, but that was back in right after we almost went bankrupt in 2010. So I get it, but it is a concern. moving forward towards the opposition letter being drafted by the new city councilors. That has not been prepared yet, but that's okay because the hearing that was scheduled for March 19th has been moved to a future date, probably in April, but we don't know. So councilors are working on that. So that's the update. And there is a meeting from the citizen group Safety Review on Monday. Yeah, Monday, March 11th at 6 p.m. at Oak Ridge High School. Again, that's not a city sponsored event, that's Safety Review Group. I know councilors are hard work, drafting stuff. Rick's also looking at some issues. As well.
So James, didn't we already approve the drafting of the letter? So is there really a motion need to be made here?
No, it's just that council asked me to
Provide the liability part of it? Okay, so yeah, I'd recommend that, we try to get the letter back in front of council so we can get something signed. As you never know when the meeting might pop up, so. Any questions on this issue at all? You guys talked about it at length probably last time. Okay. Great. Well, I'll continue to draft and hopefully get it to us maybe next session, you think? Yeah, who's leading that
Yes,
charge? You?
That's the goal. It's Counselor Hollett, Tarman and I. We have, we've met, there's been a lot of changing parts. As we go, we have info and then we're like, no, it's changing. So we're finally getting the finalized info going. So I feel like with Rick and James and all of us will be in the right direction.
Yeah, I think the risk incurred by the city is compelling. It
Yes.
probably needs to be included in that letter. So, yeah, okay. Great. Please.
Sorry. You said that our attorney mentioned that something about the possibility of being able to loop in Lane County because they also had a dump there. I'm just wondering if that is something that maybe they should be made aware of.
I think that's what the letter will hopefully tip them off. Yeah.
Yes, and they are, so the current owners know that there's potential hazard there.
Yeah, I know.
So they've tried to, evade that issue by saying they're not gonna drill right there, but they're gonna be doing stuff around it, and they're gonna do water testing every month. Is that good enough? That's the question. And does doing things near there, is it gonna shake up what's in there? Those are all questions we don't know. But the fact that they know that there's hazardous material, potential hazardous material there. We would argue if there was a big lawsuit, we would argue that they would also be partially responsible because they knew that there was potential danger there. And depending on what they did, we could argue, well, you should have known that they shouldn't have gone so deep or whatever. So we could try to pull them in, we could try to pull in Lane County because they operated in the dump for a while. And again, it'll be up to the jury to decide what percentage each entity is at fault. So we may not be alone, but on paper, we're alone. On paper, we said, we'll take full responsibility for it.
Okay, any more on this? All right, moving on to item 12.1, James, Safe Lane Coalition Safe Driving Practices Community Survey.
Yeah, just 20 people do a survey, and if people have a lot of concerns about safe driving act, especially on Highway 58, there's a survey you can take there. Money that we surveyed is donated to good causes.
Okay. 12.2, request to place Sasquatch Fest and TPF Pre-Planning Festival advertising banners on city property.
So I've been approached by these two specific organizations wanting to put up small banners on city property. I just wanted council's direction on, is that something I can approve on a case by case basis, or is it something you want me to bring to council every time?
Any councilors have a problem with delegating that to the city administrator? Councilor Hollett, you have a question?
Since some of those events are profit groups, I think we would need to be careful that if we're going to support one profit group, we're going to support them all. make sure we're not discriminating. So I think it needs a little thought.
I'm very non-discriminatory. I would allow anyone to put up a sign as long as it's happening in our parks.
As long as it's, so you're saying if it's an event that's happening at Green Waters Park, you would
Yes,
allow?
yeah, not
Okay.
just a random Pepsi sign.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I would have support that too.
Councilor Kenyon.
I never got time to look up what our sign code is, but is there any restrictions in our sign code about?
There are some, for instance, we can't put up signs on Highway 58 because that's ODOT, but it's ODOT approval. There are styles and
There's
for permanent
signs.
For
signs.
permanent signs, is there,
Yeah,
no, about temporary though?
There are regulations.
Are there? Okay, yeah, so there's some guidance there. Yeah. Okay.
so we follow our regulations.
Councilor Holly, you have another question?
No, I'm sorry. I'll take my hand down.
All right, James, sounds like you have the authority.
Great.
Other city business updates and issues, James.
Yeah, just a couple of things. Jackie, can you go to the Microsoft Word? Share that one. So today, Public Works went to open the Salmon Creek bathrooms and found that someone decided to steal all the copper out of the bathrooms, including chopping through the concrete to steal copper.
What? Where's this?
Salmon Creek.
Salmon Creek
Park.
bathrooms on Mill Street.
How did they get in, James?
They broke through the door. I think if you scroll down a little bit.
Yeah.
It did that, so, obviously, we're gonna make an insurance claim, but I just want people to know, like, bathrooms are gonna be closed. We're gonna get a bucks temporary from. Yeah, but
What kind of copper exists in the space like that? Like, is it just the tubing that goes to the?
Yeah.
Supply lines,
water
yeah.
meter?
probably with $10 worth of stuff like that. $10 worth of copper and thousands and thousands of dollars.
Wonderful.
So the bathrooms closed, so I'm giving that people's attention. They don't think we're just not open on them, that's why. Again, I wanted to commend the RTVTRT committee, 4.5 hours straight, meeting no breaks yesterday. They did a lot of great work. Those recommendations from us. 5 applications will be in front of council the next week. Plus an additional 3 or more. They have another meeting Tuesday, hopefully not 4.5 hours. On that, but and I just wanted to mention, I will be virtual.
Council? Okay.
All right, item 14, which is ordinances and resolutions with public comment. James, I'll let you introduce the supplemental and then we'll have the public hearing and then we'll go into the voting and questions discussion.
So this supplemental budget number 2 has been noticed, posted legally. Got the receipt from registered guard, etc. It's our second supplemental budget to address unforeseen expenditures. The budget committee met 2 days ago and made a recommendation to change 2 lines, 2 descriptions. Line 3 and 4 of the EMS fund, to change them to the reimbursement fiscal year 23 expenditures, more accurately describe what they are. That was the only edits recommended by budget committee. Otherwise, it was recommended that council approve it.
Okay, Councilor Hollett, do you have a conflict of interest statement you want to make?
Yes, thank you. I have an actual conflict of interest. My spouse works for the city of Oak Ridge, so I will not be participating or voting.
Okay. All right, what we'll do now is move into public hearing for comment on supplemental budget number 2, which has been out there in the public for the required amount of time. So first we'll take comments in favor. Is that Jackie? Oh, Councilor Bjornson.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly declare a potential conflict of interest. I'm on the volunteer roster of the fire department.
Thank you. Sorry, we'll move into public hearing at 8:23, and we're taking comments in favor. Comments in favor. Comments in favor. Any comments opposed? Comments opposed? Comments opposed? Any comments in general? Comments in general? Comments in general? All right, we'll close the public hearing at 8:24 and go into a motion. Is there any motion to be made here?
I move that we approve the first reading of resolution 03-2024, adopting supplemental budget number 2 for fiscal year 23-24, after changing the resource descriptions on lines 3 and 4 of the EMS budget changes to reimbursement for fiscal year 23 expenditures.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
All right, motion made by Councilor Kenyon, seconded by Councilor Brewer. Discussion on the supplemental budget. All right, nothing heard. Take the vote and then you can read the.
Looking forward to it.
All right, Jackie?
Councilor Coker,
Did we lose? Aye.
Councilor Brewer,
Aye.
Councilor Tomlin,
Aye.
Councilor Bjornson,
Aye.
Councilor Kenyon,
Aye.
Councilor Holland. Oh, sorry.
Yep, okay. So motion passes, what would that be, 5-0? Okay. All right, James?
All right, resolution 3-2024, resolution adopting supplemental budget number 2 for fiscal year 23-24 and making appropriations. Whereas the city of Oak Ridge resolves the following, whereas 294.471 permits the governing body for municipal appropriations to make a supplemental budget for the fiscal year for which the regular budget, if one or more of the following circumstances exist. A, an occurrence or condition that is not ascertained when comparing the original budget or a previous supplemental budget for the current year or current budget period, and that requires a change in the financial planning. B, a pressing necessity that could not reasonably be foreseen when preparing the original budget or the previous supplemental budget for the current year or current budget period, and that requires prompt action. C, funds that are made available by another unit of federal, state, or local government, the availability of which could not reasonably be foreseen when preparing the original budget or a previous supplemental budget for the current year or current budget period. D, a request for services or facilities, the cost of which is to be supplied by a private individual, corporation, or company by another governmental unit, and the amount of which could not be accurately estimated when preparing the original budget or a previous supplemental budget for the current year or current budget period. E, proceeds from the involuntary destruction, involuntary conversion, or sale of property that necessitates the immediate purchase, destruction, or acquisition of different facilities in order to carry on governmental operations. F, ad valorem property taxes that are received during the fiscal year or budget period in amount sufficiently greater than the amount estimated to be collected, such that the difference will significantly affect the level of government operations to be funded by the taxes that's provided in the original budget or a previous supplemental budget for the current year or current budget period. G, a local option tax described in ORS 294.476 that is certified for extension of the assessment and tax roll under ORS 3.0.060 for the fiscal year or budget period in which the local option tax measure is approved by voters. H, a reduction in available resources that requires the governing body to reduce appropriations in the original budget or previous supplemental budget for the current year or current budget period. I, the original budget of the municipal corporation adopted under ORS 4.456 did not include estimates required to pay debt service
pursuant to ORS 294.477, or the actual requirements are different from the estimated requirements included in the original budget or previous supplemental budget. Whereas the attached supplemental budget number 2 for fiscal years 2023-24 meets one or more requirements of ORS 294.471. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Oak Ridge hereby adopts a supplemental budget for fiscal year 2023-2024 in the amounts shown below for each fund, and be it further resolved that the amounts shown below as appropriations for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023 for the purposes shown are hereby appropriated for each fund. Be further resolved this resolution shall become effective immediately upon its passage. It's a date for date which is passed by council and date which is signed by the mayor. I can't remember when was the last time on the amounts. Did we mention each amount or just it's an attachment?
We didn't mention the amounts.
Okay, good.
All right. Is there any other motions to be made on this agenda item?
That we approve and adopt resolution 03-2024 after a second reading by title only.
I'll second that.
All right, motion made by Councilor Brewer, seconded by Councilor Kenyon. Any discussion on the second reading by title only? Okay, Jackie?
Mayor Hutchins.
Aye.
Councilor Brewer,
Aye.
Councilor Carmen,
Aye.
Councilor Bjornson,
Aye.
Councilor Kenyon,
Aye.
Okay, thank you. James, by title only?
Yes, resolution 3-2024, resolution adopting supplemental budget number 2 for fiscal year 2023-2024 and making appropriations.
Thank you. And if the council will bear with me, can we have another 15 minutes to finish up? No longer than 15 minutes, hopefully. All right, moving on. Item 16, which is department staff or board committee commission reports. Going down the list, 16.1, admin committee, Councilor Kenyon.
The administration committee is working on, well, we just finished up one project, right? Of
Yep.
the,
Drafting the resolutions for the
well, we finished up all the review and now the work needs to be done, so. That'll be coming forward.
16.2, public safety committee, Councilor Coker.
we lost yours. Go into that. We actually had a very good discussion. It was heated at first about increased crime in the area, and then we thought about ways citizens can help with that. Interested again, set up a neighborhood watch. There's people willing to do it. So looking forward to that. Yeah, there's
You know, James, I wonder if there's any sort of ways we could sort of leverage the community disaster response teams that we're trying to set up with the neighborhood watch. And then you think about it, it's regionalized throughout the city like that, and communications and the whole bit. So anyway, something to think about. 16.3, charter review subcommittee, Councilor Kenyon.
Ongoing review of the charter.
Okay. 16.4, library board, Councilor Tarman.
We meet every other month, so
Okay.
there's no meeting.
16.5, ODAC, James.
all right. Again, start help getting ready for the March 18th visit by the governor's team. We help each other at grants. And Michelle Emmons was the elected vice chair of the.
Okay. 16.6 is a repeat. 16.7, RTMPTRT committee, Councilor Kenyon.
Yes, our committee met last night to review multiple applications that have come in so far. It was a a really long meeting, like James mentioned, and I wanted to also extend my appreciation to my committee members who were willing to stick that out and get done what we needed to get done. Which was reviewing all the applicants that we already had and making recommendations to the council, which will be coming forward at our next meeting. We also have more applications to review before we, so we have one more meeting before that it all comes to council, so
Like a lot of work.
it is.
All right, moving on to 16.8 Planning Commission. Rick?
It's so the planning commission met, and there was a continuation of the conditional use permit submitted, by Holly Wilson. This was again, continuation from the, January meeting.
Okay. 16.9, again, you, Rick, the Parks and Community Services Committee, or is that?
I'll go ahead and take that one. So for old business, we discussed, the pump track progress, Salmon Creek Trestle Bridge project. For new business, we elected a chair, vice chair. Hopefully we did a secretary. Again, this time, bus fare presentation and discussion, and we briefly discussed the possibility of a tree ordinance.
Okay. 16.10, that's the WAC Subcommittee, Councilor Holland.
Yeah, we had a really good meeting with the architect last month. We discussed future tenants. We looked over, we talked about some of the grants still on the table. Looked over primarily the food box area and talked about how much space they would be needing for their future organization. And then we did another walkthrough on the WAC. We've done so many, but we just, did another walkthrough on the WAC with the whole group. So it was a really good meeting.
Thank you. You know, I think 16.6 was actually supposed to be the redistricting committee. Do you want to speak to that, Councilor Holland?
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to make sure, did all the counselors get the feasibility study in a PDF? It was a pretty large report.
Is it on the website, James?
No,
I did not get it.
I got a draft. I never got the final one that Steve put out.
I thought, James, you emailed it like back in November, but it's good enough to know that everybody doesn't recall. We'll make sure that everybody gets it in their email. We are hoping to put together a last final meeting with multiple fire chiefs in the area to do some Q&A.
Yeah, it is on, I just can't remember what page. It is on.
News, maybe. I don't know. So you did not have a meeting for this time period?
No, we did not.
Okay, all right. 16.11 is the WAC funding committee. I wasn't here for this, but I know that there was some great work done by Kurt Wilson in supporting the Lane County grant for WAC resiliency fund grant. James, do you want to highlight anything that went on in that meeting if you recall?
well, the big news is the grant that Sarah got, that will partially fund a full-time person.
Right.
Half their job will be to help fundraise for the WAC.
And there's probably going to be some good news in the next couple of days from the request we put in for congressionally directed spending. We asked for $3.5 million or in that neighborhood to complete the WAC. And because of the continuing resolution in Congress, it just kept getting pushed. They can't really do anything until they actually pass a budget for USDA rural development. And that happened the House passed it today. And I believe, I'm not sure about the Senate. And as soon as that gets signed, we should hear something, but I think it's going to be through the grapevine here, it's probably going to be at a much lower level than what we asked for, but any money is good money. So we'll see. 16.12, the Chamber of Commerce monthly newsletter that was just in there to make sure that we know it's there and go ahead and read it. 16.13 is the Oak Ridge Air February newsletter. Some good information in there. If you read that, it's about their current stuff that's going on. Any other business? Item 17.
I just want to add a quick note to the Oak Ridge Air flyer that we got. One thing that I noticed on it when I looked at it tonight was they have that little QR code for place on the website to go to record whether or not you're doing your maintenance, like trimming tree branches. and
In-kind
things like that,
efforts. Yeah.
in order to keep us able to be a Firewise community. It's really important to get that message out to the community to log in there and record your hours. It reminded me that I'm behind. I used to do it pretty regularly and I think I need to catch up. So
Yeah, it helps justify the Firewise designation that we're
right,
pursuing.
important for the community.
Yep. Any other business? All right, item 18, public comment. So we'll start in the room. Any public comment in the room? Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm very red faced that, good evening, that I completely messed up on the time. I guess I was confused between them. Anyway, I'm old, I just made a mistake.
And just so you know, we did read your statement at the beginning. Okay.
I do understand that. And I prepared extra ones for you guys, but I guess we don't need that.
Yeah, we get sent to us. James sent it to us.
Okay. And got to see pretty much. I don't know what to say at this point. I really, really hope that you will take some of this seriously. With the addition of all these businesses on the First Street area, we have additional noise in addition. And is making it really impossible to live in life. The C2, although this is a business area, the C2 commercial district does include residential, which my home is 101 years old now, business and industry. And the only way that I can see that we are going to be in harmony is if we go and follow ordinances within our city. I don't believe that an outdoor venue can do that. I have experienced it on 2 levels now. Last year I had 3 hours of sleep at night, which is against quite a few other things, other ordinances. I mean, it's no way to treat somebody who has invested in your community, as I have, who has paid their property taxes, and is a property owner here. I keep hearing like a ton of people showed up at the last second meeting, but none of them are well, excuse me, I'm getting up to that. Few are actual property owners. There are 8 property owners here, and I am one of those. And I think that there has to be a better understanding of what needs to happen to make it harmonious for everyone. In my defense, if I'm labeled a complainer, once I have had a compliance, for instance, with the pub, there were no more complaints made. They keep their music inside for the most part, and that is very helpful. I don't see that. Anyway, do you have any questions for me?
No, but we're going to hear we're going to have the staff bring us the agenda bill next session on your request. We're going to have the staff bring an agenda bill to us next session on your request, and we'll get some more in-depth information and then act on that.
I would appreciate that.
Yeah.
Especially in my research, I'm finding that ORS has a lot to do with our noise ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
And it would really be helpful to for the businesses to follow that I think that would have eliminated a lot of the problems that I'm having, which are physical, mental, and serious.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate your time.
Mr. Barkley, do you have a comment?
I do. Dan Barkley, Oak Ridge, Oregon. As Counselor Kenyon and James alluded to, last night was the first time that I can recall ever attending a public meeting that went 4 hours. Just meeting from hell. And but you know, we're aside from Counselor Kenyon, the committee lacks knowledge and experience. No fault of their own, and that'll self-correct with time and experience. But I appreciate Counselor Kenyon on that committee, and she illustrated why, or when, or how a counselor as a voting member of these committees matters. In some cases, I think that vote would have been the deciding vote one way or the other. Aside from that, a couple of concerns I wanted to share with council. At last night's meeting, nobody knew the RTMT, TRT balances for certain. I have every confidence that James provided a reasonably close estimate, but these revenue sources are segregated from all others. There's no reason that we shouldn't know all the time what the balances on those accounts are. It's not like they're going to be transferred elsewhere. They are segregated from the other revenue sources. So there's no reason that that committee should have to, especially an inexperienced committee, they should have to do their job based on an estimate. But no doubt between James and the finance director, we can get that situation resolved. The second problem I saw, the guidance from for TRT, RTMP is vague and unspecified. And that creates additional confusion and complicates the process. RTMP applicants submit a request for reimbursement for events. TRT, on the other hand, applicants submit a TRT project budget. I'll read that again. TRT project budget and request for reimbursement for beautification type projects like the water tower, the amphitheater, or the snowflakes and hanging baskets uptown. And had Uber not advised council and the planning commission 10 years ago that they would perform maintenance and upkeep of the highway billboard, refreshing the billboard would also be a TRT project. But that agreement, you know, between the city and Uber, I think should be honored. So refreshing the TRT billboard would be a TRT project, but the agreement makes it an Uber responsibility, in my opinion. That's just, you know, an agreement between grown-ups. And council can make the whole distribution process as complicated or as simple as they like, but maybe a little KISS principle, you know, take some of the confusion out of it, close some of the cracks and loopholes in the guidance that people are going to find a way to slip through those cracks and use those loopholes to where TRT funds are being used for other than their intended purpose, or vice versa. You know, they're designed to serve a purpose, and the money collected and spent should be used specifically for that purpose, and not, you know, $15,000 to $20,000 of TRT being used on events when TRT is projects, beautification, curb appeal, you know, make the city look nice kind of stuff. Maybe get the fifth wheel that's been abandoned just west of the hardware store, maybe get rid of that. I don't know. It's been there a few months, but
30 seconds, Mr. Barkley.
It's an inexperienced crew. They did a hell of a good job. They stuck it out. They, you know, did a decent job trimming the fat off $57,000 worth of requests. Council can refine, you know, accept, reject, or refine those recommendations, and I think they should in some cases. But kudos to the committee. Given their newness, I think they did a good job.
Thank you. All right. And item 19, adjournment. Any motion to adjourn?
I so moved.
All right. Meeting adjourned at 8:47.